Hi, artists. Words can really hurt, but words can also heal. That's why we are spending time this week and next week at our school thinking a little bit about ways that we can change our words to reflect more kindness, because kindness rocks. And using kind words, I know it sounds corny and cheesy, but it really creates an environment where we all feel loved, supported, and it's going to be positive and awesome for everybody. But not everybody might feel comfortable sharing positive, kind words in a very direct way with somebody. So that's why we are going to be creating some kindness rocks to be shared with others. I'm actually going to cheat a little bit, and we have all this old clay. So for our kindness rocks, I'm actually going to be starting with some old clay. So let me show you what I got. First of all, we got a ton of setup over here. So this is the station where you will go to get your things. I have the clay over here in bags. I have trays. Everything's labeled, so make sure you're reading it, following the instructions, even if you forget after the video. I got the clay, the trays, the brushes, the rocks that we've already fired in the kiln. I got the paints, and then I have the shiny top coats. So notice I am wearing a smock. We are going to be creating rocks using acrylic paint, and acrylic paint does stain. It will stay on the table, it will stay on your clothes. So please, 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 please make sure you're wearing a smock so you don't have an issue with your laundry, and so we just don't want to stain our clothes. So I actually have this old clay here. It's still usable, but it's not in the best shape. So what I do is I roll it into a ball and I squish it, and I try and turn it into a river rock, a rock that has been smoothed and flattened by the force of water. So I'm just using my fingers to flatten and smooth the edges. So I'm smoothing the cracks, smoothing the edges. And then since I'm kind of going for like a river rock look, what I do is I just get a little container of water. I'm just using the water containers for our brushes, and I just dip my finger in and I kind of smooth out the edge. I also want to make sure it's nice and flat because I know I'm going to be painting on my rock. So if you haven't done this already, this is a really cool thing to do. Of course, if you don't have old clay like me that you need to get rid of, most of us just go out and we find a rock. So this one was a rock found near a stream. Sometimes you can find nice, smooth, flat rocks anywhere. Just make sure it's a good rock to paint on. So I'm gonna smooth it out. And when you're all done smoothing with your fingers and a little bit of water, I have a tray over here that is going to the kiln. So you'll put your clay on that tray right there, and I will fire it in the kiln. Now, when you are ready to paint your rocks, everybody gets 2 rocks. I have another tray here of rocks that are fired, ready to go. So you're gonna pick your 2 rocks, any 2 rocks, and you're going to pick out your paint. And I always get my rock, my paint. So I got my rock, my paint. I get a little water container with just a little bit of water in it, and my brush, and a paper towel. This paint is very permanent. If you get it on the table, it's very hard to get off once it dries. So wipe it off for sure once it's wet, but also just put a paper towel down. And you are going to have to paint your rocks. You are doing 2. I'm just doing 1 to show you, but you want to paint your rock with the base color. And it's a little annoying because you're going to have to wait for it to dry. I do paint both sides. I paint the edges. So I usually paint both sides, give it a minute, flip it over. I sometimes even do 2 or 3 coats, but you pick your color and you paint your rock. If you want to do more than 1 color and kind of blend it in, you can get fancy. But I also recommend always having a plan ahead of time. On Google Classroom, I'll post a Pinterest page, I'll post my slideshow, but I do just go online and I find some images. I actually will find some inspirational rocks and I duplicate a specific rock. It always helps me if I have some kind of image to look at. So you could do that on your Chromebook, just make sure you don't get paint on it, or you can use a printout. So you find your rock, you paint it, and it's like a cooking show. When it's dry, so I have my dry versions down here. When it's dry, I've learned from a lot of artists online that they actually use different kinds of markers. There are paint markers. I don't have those, but I've been just playing around with different Sharpies, and Sharpies work great. It is hard to write on surfaces that are not flat, so I do stabilize my hand against a flat surface like a table. You can do it in pencil first if you want, but once you're ready, you very carefully will write on your rock. My Sharpie is a little dry, so I do circles, and then it comes back. And it is tricky writing on things that are not flat, like I said, so you take your time. I kind of do a base layer. So I have kind of my first layer, and then I go back and I thicken our lines just like we did with neurographics, so find places to thicken. Doesn't have to be the whole thing. If you just thicken parts of lines and leave parts thin, it'll look really cool. So you go back and you thicken some parts of your lines. And if you need to paint more, you can. I do an outline, so I got a little bee. I'm doing Be Happy. And we are going to be leaving one rock here at school for other students to look at and get inspired by. And you will have the opportunity to take one rock with you to give to somebody else. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's your local public library. A lot of our public libraries do collect rocks at the entryway. Maybe you're going to give it to your bus driver, somebody in your community. Sometimes I like to anonymously put them by people's mailboxes or in their mailboxes. So that's something you can definitely do. You might not even know right now who you want to give it to, but just something to think about. So I'm doing Be Happy. I'm not going to do the whole thing with you, but I'm doing black Sharpie first. Then you could do color Sharpie. If you really want to go back and get some more acrylic paints, you can, but you do want to start to do your design. And I think marker's a lot easier than a skinny brush. And then the last step, I'm not going to do that now, but when it is completely dry and done, we do want it to stay outside and be waterproof and rainproof. So we do have to put a clear coating on our rock. So I have over here some Mod Podge for you guys. It's in the same container as the paints, which is a little bit confusing, but make sure you read the top. This is our shiny protective top coat. You have to do it all over your rock, and that's what gives your rock the shine. That's what gives your rock the ability to stay outside, because a lot of people you gift these to might put them outside. And I don't know if you see this, but there's definitely space in our beautiful courtyard where we could put some rocks for sure. Remember, kindness rocks. Be your kindest best selves. And let's create some art that rocks.